What's up, everybody? This is the Jedi. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. Those are the words of John Fitzgerald Kennedy in one of his many brilliant speeches that he gave during his lifetime. I am linking underneath this video, inshallah, for you, a series. It's a 6-part series called Evidence of Revision. And that's what provoked this, because I was watching that, and the first part begins off with the JFK assassination and some other things, but why this series is so important is because there's so much history that's being revealed that's beyond just the assassination. There's a lot of history, a lot of documents, a lot of real footage and interviews of real people. You need this education because it gives you, those of you who don't do any deep study, any deep dive studying, it shows you where you should be, the types of things you should be consuming. Hopefully it sparks that hunger in you for more. You know, among the many things that I fill my time up with when it comes to education, it's things like this. And when we talk about education as a concept in general, this is one of the things that I define as education. You know, I've spoken out and frequently about the education of our children, our people in general, and that we have to redefine what we decide is education. Because education is really only valuable if it's something that you can use and that applies to your real world experience. But among the things, and like I say, there's 6 chapters of this piece, so it's quite a sitting. And in one of the segments, they were talking about even the Vietnam War, something I'm very aware of and have done quite a bit of educating myself about over the years. And, the Gulf of Tonkin incident that precipitated this aggression, which really was not a war. It was just an aggression. And this event that set it off never even happened. They admit that. It never even happened. And what sparked this is because in one of the pieces, there was a gentleman speaking, and he was saying, we don't want this to appear to the Vietnamese to be an American aggression. If the soldiers coming in with their white faces, he even put his hands up to his face, literally, like involuntarily. It was just one of those involuntary movements. But I always tell you, you notice what's in front of you, and you notice how people communicate. What are they saying? What tone are they saying it in? What context? And what language are they using to say it? Who's saying it? All these things matter when you're consuming information. And when he said that, I've been to the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. I have video of me in front of the wall, taking a video of the 58,000 names that are embossed and embezzled or engraved on the wall and all of it. And we've all heard that, we're the first that they draft for war, and we're usually on the front lines and all of that. And when he said that, I thought, I'm sure they put the brothers at the front. But it also occurred to me in that moment, when we see Asians being rude to us, we always name the Chinese. We never think about the Vietnamese. A lot of these people are Vietnamese. They're not Chinese or Japanese. And as it relates to the Vietnamese, it could be that when they see us, they remember the aggression upon their nation during that Vietnam aggression that they call the Vietnam War. They probably see that. And unlike us, they don't forget and they don't forgive, which is proper. Any Japanese worth their salt should always hate America and anyone attached to it. Because remember, this asshole of the devil dropped the nuclear bomb, 2 of them, on 2 cities in Japan. They dropped one on Nagasaki and one on Hiroshima. Twice they used the atomic weapon. Nobody else on earth has done this except for white people. So they don't have any reason to love America or anything about it or anyone in it that's not Japanese. I roll with them on that. And we need to get to that. We don't let the passage of time forgive when there's been no reconciliation and no acknowledgement above all. Because I always tell you, there can never be reconciliation on anything between anybody for any reason without acknowledgement. So that also occurred to me. And when you see, as I have over the years, you see how they talked about the Vietnamese, how they thought about them, how they treated them, the heinous things that they did. When Ho Chi Minh was asking for help from America because all they wanted was to get the French out and run their own damn nation. They were sick of colonization. Again, white people, we don't care about them speaking French. They got pig skin, they are the devil, and they are white people. We don't make no distinction. And he just thought his tiny nation would be insignificant. But with faith, he reached out and he wrote letters, several of them, to the United States government saying, could you please help us to get these French people the fuck up out of here? And of course, America, being a non-benevolent, devilish entity, doesn't do anything because it's the right thing to do. They only do it because it's right for them. So they were interested in trying to take over. It's a whole thing. There's way more to it that I'm going to tell you right now in this sitting. But you need to watch this Evidence of Revision series. I'm going to link the first part of it. Yeah, I'll put the first video, part 1, in the link below. And then, you'll follow. You can then follow to get the other, pieces so you can get all 6 parts. I don't think it exists as a one entity. All I've seen is parts. It's part one, and then you have to go to But this provoked me because Spike Lee did that whole movie about the Bloods, and that was a Vietnamese thing, and this was tied to that. But I also wanted to do this because I want to speak to a theme that I preach all the damn time. One of the issues we have as a people is here we have an entire race of people, an entire entity of devils that are against us every single day. I'm sure I could pull up something right now, random. I've done it before you in real time before. I don't need to do it again. Just open up a news page on your phone and find right now today some white bitch did something or some white devil did something. But what we do is one white person can come along and just hand us a handkerchief. And then we're willing to testify for the entire fucking race over that one ass white person. Instead of understanding that meant nothing and that don't change shit. Because think about it. It's definitely a psychosis. Because if one of us owes you $5, you holding that $5 against us. And we come along and do something else that might be benevolent and nice, that's not your $5, you're not even counting that. You still focused on your $5. I still want my $5. Well, I want you to hold that same energy when it comes to this enemy. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, round the clock, 365. Now, that documentary made me pull this up. Vietnam veterans recall the real injustices they faced during and after the war. This also, by default, speaks to this fiction that because you work with white people, that means they're good ones, or they you served in the military, or you were police on the force with them, and they stay consistently evil. You understand? And you need to understand that and act thusly, and stop turning into a damn cream puff when you're around these damn people and losing your damn humanity, but most of all, your fury. Because you will never conquer anything that you don't hate. You won't. I always love to cite the Star Wars, the Return of the Jedi movie, when the Emperor says to Luke, I can feel your anger swelling in you. Now, take your Jedi weapon and strike me down with all of your hatred. And your journey towards the dark side will be complete. All through the movie, they're telling him, only your hatred can destroy this emperor. So it ain't enough to just be angry at him. Or you don't really like him. You ain't really feeling. No, you gotta hate that motherfucker. Only your hatred, and then he acknowledges it, only your hatred can destroy me. There's wisdom in that. But I always tell you, you can put something right out in the open and no one will see it. No need for security guards and lasers and, alarms and surveillance and shit. No need. Just put it right out in the open. Nobody will see it. Now, It's often said that relationships between soldiers transcend race. We hate that word, that phrase, transcends race, because nothing transcends race other than the vanishing of white people. That will transcend race, finally. You see, as long as they exist, there will be no transcending. So let us be clear. Movies, books, and personal testimonies have told us repeatedly that when two people, well, there's a strike right there, because you have to have people, you see. And I suggest these are not people. But when two people fight for their lives alongside each other, a lasting sense of camaraderie and understanding is forged between them, regardless of background. But I want to stop and say this, as I've said to you a million times before, you got to start using them. Using them. You understand? If there's something that can forward you for the betterment of all of us and not just your black ass, then you use them. You understand? You fake nice, whatever you got to do, you put on a show. But you don't mean it. Your agenda is blackness. But many African veterans of the Vietnam aggression have told a different story. Although many formed enduring interracial relationships while fighting overseas, inequities and blatantly racist treatment stained their experiences both during and after the war. You understand? Because as long as they exist, this is where you will always have it. In Vietnam, they were disproportionately sent to the front lines. There we are. You see? Send you to the front line. So I can't really be mad at any Vietnamese that when you walk into their store, they start speaking in their language, talking shit about you. They should. They should. Not by any fault of our own or their own. Again, we have to point our finger at the hand, the devilish hand that is always behind any discourse and venom between anybody else on the earth. There's always a white hand. Always. But they were disproportionately sent to the front lines, jailed or disciplined at a higher rate, and promoted less often. Upon their return to the asshole of the devil, they were presented with menial job opportunities, denied support by Veterans Affairs, and received little empathy from their own communities. And this is being written by Time, so we're sure when they say their own communities, they mean by just fucking white people in this bitch who claim they love the troops so much and they're patriotic and all this. That ain't for your black ass. It never is. A new Spike Lee film debuting on Netflix on 12th June, Da 5 Bloods, captures this continuing struggle, depicting 4 black veterans who are filled with resentment and trauma as they return. I don't really want to read about the movie. I want to get to the experiences. Buried gold, blah, blah, blah. In conjunction with the film's release, Time spoke with veterans. Okay, this seems good. Spoke with veterans and historians about the troubled history of black Vietnam veterans and the ways their stories connect to the current protests sweeping the nation. Quote, "We have enough problems fighting white people back home," end quote. There it is, you see. And like my king, Muhammad Ali, said, when he refused to go to this aggression, he reminded this white devil that the Vietnamese are not my damn enemy. It's your white ass. You're the problem for my people, not no Viet Cong. He was very clear. Rahim of Allah. The Vietnam War, the Vietnam aggression, the Vietnam white aggression was the first American aggression in which its troops were fully integrated. A development that was, no, it wasn't. The fucking Civil War, bitch, was fully integrated. A development that was supposed to turn the page on a ghastly history of institutional racism in the military. That was the reason? Nah. It wasn't supposed to turn the page on white evil. You just needed niggas to do your dirty work, like we built the entire fucking country. You see, we have to be clear. Remember, this is time. We don't own this, and so we know this is being written by a white devil. So, as the old African proverb says, until the lions tell their tale, that would be us. The story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. That's this devil. So when they tell it, they self-glorify. In 2016, a study released by the Equal Justice Initiative that found that between 1877 and 1950, no one was more at risk of experiencing violence and targeted racial terror than black veterans after World War II. Just a second. That's bullshit. As if they had some hierarchy of which ones of us they hated. No, they're just hateful and they hate us. No matter what form we come in. Muhammad Ali talked about winning the Olympics and came back to Kentucky with his gold medal and thought he could go into one of the restaurants where they don't serve black people and he couldn't get service. There he is, a fucking Olympic gold medal winner. I'm over it. After World War II, the GI Bill was constructed in a way that denied benefits to not many black soldiers, all black soldiers, bitch. You understand? The GI was set up for white people only. And only increased the gaps in wealth and education between white devils and African people. Hassan Kwame Jeffries, a professor of African American studies or African American history at Ohio State University, said that before Vietnam, African soldiers were on the bottom of a rigid caste system. They were in service positions. They were mostly put in positions to do the grunt work. He tells Time, quote, "It's also important to understand that even though it was segregated, it wasn't equal." African soldiers were receiving inadequate training and resources. You see, no matter what they do it with evil. We weren't even born when this when this shit was jumping off. Most of us, I presume. But it doesn't matter. From the moment we encountered this beast, this is their behavior. Why do we even have 5 minutes where we want to consider any of them to be good or like this one could be different when you have all these fucking centuries of history of evidence to show you exactly who the fuck they are? In 1964, American troops began arriving in Vietnam in large numbers following the Gulf of Tonkin lie, with new integration policies a source of optimism. No. We have to have the niggers in here, and so this is how we have to do it. But many African soldiers were immediately faced with discrimination and racism during basic training even, you see, which typically took place in the Jim Crow South. Again, they always like to cling to that Jim Crow South. It was all over this bitch. You understand? Wherever white people were, we would catch hell. And still do. But it was held in the Jim Crow South, although we're talking about an era after the Civil Rights Act. Officers and soldiers had deep South racist roots. You know, white soldiers had deep racist roots. You understand? The racism was there. It was real and felt between soldiers. Or it should say, was felt by black soldiers. The structures persisted overseas, even if African and white devils had to fight side by side. Out in the field, everyone had to depend on everyone. Dury Felton, a veteran, says, but when you got back to base camp, you had what you'd call de facto segregation. In Saigon, African troops often spent their time off in a section of the city that would come to be known as Soulville. Meanwhile, their white devil counterparts were being promoted at a higher rate. Soldiers were still dealing with these deeply rooted perceptions about who they are fighting next to. Jeffries says, as the fighting dragged on, ugly statistics reveal how Africans were being disproportionately affected by the war, by the aggression. Robert McNamara, the head white devil at the time, his Project 100,000, implemented in 1966, pulled hundreds of thousands of poor men into the war, 40% of them African. By the following year, black or African soldiers made up 16.3% of those drafted and 23% of Vietnam combat troops. Despite, there's a key there, everybody, and so the black soldiers made up 63% of the drafted ones and 23% of combat troops. So you need to add those numbers together. You understand? They're not separate statistics because of this word, and. Despite accounting for only roughly 11% of the civilian population. You understand? Just like it is with incarceration now. Our numbers in prison are greater than our number in the population. So, of course, it will be the same. You see? Fuck America, dude. Fuck this bitch. The new draftees often had little understanding of the war's purpose. In fact, in one of the clips I saw in this film, they asked one of the kids, they said, he goes, we don't really even know what we're fighting for. We don't even know. There he was out there. They were out there in Vietnam. They're like, shit is blowing up around them, and the reporter is getting the story. And you could tell this kid is terrified. He's like, I don't even really know what we're fighting for. You see? Had little understanding of the war's of the aggression's purpose, and were increasingly disenchanted by their role in it. For many soldiers, a major tipping point happened when Martin Luther King was assassinated in '68, news of which reached the soldiers in the movie during one particularly stirring scene, and in response, white devils burned crosses at Cam Ranh Bay and flew Confederate flags at Da Nang. Quote, things fell apart rapidly. Harry Humphreys, a veteran who served as a military advisor on the movie, recalls. Fighting between Africans and white devils broke out across the country. At Long Bin Jail, a military prison where more than 50% of the incarcerated men were African prisoners, overthrew the guards and destroyed many of the buildings. In 1970, the Marine Corps alone reported 1,060 violent racial incidents. You understand? This is a savage beast, everybody. A devil. The devil. In '69, Time magazine correspondent Wallace Terry conducted a survey of 400 African soldiers on the ground and found that 60% of them believed that African people should not fight the fucking Vietnam because of the inequality in the United States. Terry quoted one soldier saying, quote, why should I come over here when some of the South Vietnamese live better than my people? We have enough problems fighting white people back home. I love that, because that's the truth. That's the truth. Janice Terry, Wallace Terry's wife, tells Time that during the course of her husband's reporting, he ran into extreme resistance from the military. Quote, the officers didn't like it at all, she says. The whites, she says, I'm saying, didn't like it at all. At one point, he felt like his life was in danger because of this. Janice would often visit her husband at army camps and remembers seeing Confederate flags strewn from barracks and trucks. You're in a war and some idiots are flying the Confederate flag, she says. That made African soldiers so angry. Wallace Terry died in 2003, later wrote Bloods, an oral history of Black Vietnam soldiers, which heavily influenced the Spike Lee movie. Londia Granger Wright joined the Navy in the mid-70s and served as a chaplain assistant in Guam, supporting Vietnamese refugees. Her late husband, George Wright, a Marine Sergeant Major, had also fought in the war. Londia says that they both experienced white racism while serving, including when a pilot told her that, quote, I should not have been allowed to be in the Navy and that I needed to go back to where I came from. But Wright says her husband rarely discussed this aspect of his experience with her. Quote, I think memories were too painful, she says. When we'd watch military Hollywood films, he would shake his head and laugh and turn them off because he said they were so wrong. You see, but this also goes to what I tell you all the time. Black people are not telling our children the true nature of white people. From the time they're children, they got to know, man. And it seems like the older ones are the main ones that are guilty of this shit. They're the main ones. Look at James Clyburn's bitch ass. Joe Biden, South Carolina. All his blowing. Joe Biden, South Carolina. And we know Joe in South Carolina. He's a prime example of this shit. Prime example. Prime example. And sadly, there's too many more that one could cite. And again, this is when I'm talking about critical race theory, this is the shit you need to be teaching your children. That's why they're having such an uproar about it being taught. Because they don't want your children to know that they're the devil. And you're helping them out by not teaching it. Damn. They have to know that race affects everything in their damn life, especially in this nation if you're dealing with this devil. Everything. 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 100%. And if you're not telling your children that, your ass is a bad parent and you need to be carted off by the damn CPS and put under the jail. In the early 70s, the U.S. limped out of the aggression and began sending its troops back home to a country that was, in many ways, unrecognizable. Fashion, movies, and music had changed. African uprisings had occurred in cities from Detroit to Baltimore. Activists like Angela Davis and writers like Toni Morrison were forging incendiary new forms of rhetoric. You see that? Incendiary forms of rhetoric. Really? Again, it's a white devil writing it. So they tell the truth and it's incendiary. I can tell you they don't have the capacity for righteousness, and they're not interested in the truth. There was a culture shock. I felt like I was in a sci-fi movie, Felton says. And race relations were no better than when they had left. You see? And nor are they now. Snakes don't stop slithering, dogs don't stop barking, and white people don't stop being evil. man, woman, and unborn child. While Felton was recovering at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C., a fight broke out between hobbled white devils and black veterans over a Temptations record. Once he had discharged, things only worsened. Quote, I'm being accosted by other Africans who are excoriating me because I served in a white man's war. That's the shit we should be doing. Punishing our own when they betray us. There should be a harsh and swift and unforgettable punishment. They need to fear us more than they fear this white devil. That's what it needs to be. I can't go on Fox News and say there's no racism because I'll be dead by morning. No, I can't come sing the Star Spangled Banner at your fucking Super Bowl when all of my people are saying no, because I'll be hung up from a tree by tomorrow morning. Then I tried to join one of the major service organizations, but the World War II veterans turned us back because they said we had not fought in a real aggression, he remembers. Post-traumatic stress disorder, which had not yet been recognized by medical institutions, occurred in African communities in a disproportionately high rate. Again, I told y'all a long time ago, we're over this disproportionate bullshit. Deliberately is the word we want. Deliberately. You understand? They both begin with a D and end with an LY. Deliberately. In black communities, at a deliberately high rate, according to a 1990 study. Delroy Lindo's character in The Bloods, Paul, reflects the toll of decades of untreated PTSD. And by the way, you don't just get it from war. You get it from just dealing with fucking white people every goddamn day. Every single one of us is walking around with current stress disorder. You understand? Current traumatic stress disorder. CTSD, bitch. CTSD. A 1972 study found that African veterans were over twice as likely as the white devils to not be employed full time and were struggling to find jobs that will support them beyond manual labor. I want to say this. Another reason why you have to watch this link that I'm putting, this series that I'm putting the link for in under this video, everybody, is because one of the things that will become very clear to you if you're not familiar with President Kennedy's politic is you will understand why white devils wanted him dead. You understand? The same white devils that you're dealing with today, the same ones that stormed the Capitol on January 6th, are the same ones that killed Kennedy in 1963. The same ones. One of the things that he was saying was, oh, by the way, we need a fucking universal unemployment system so that people, when they who want to work but aren't able to find a job, can have some means to support themselves. This was blasphemous in 1963. He also said that you shouldn't attach the aid for children to the wage earner in the home. Like the kids should be able to get some help from the government, and you don't got to get the husband out, the brother, the husband, the king out of the house. They knew he was talking about black folks. He was killed because in their eyes, he was a nigger lover. He had to die. The same white devil, the same one, is why this man is no longer alive. You have to know his politics, everybody. You will watch this, or you will not listen to me again. I'm here to enrich you and to guide you to knowledge that you otherwise would not have fallen upon, perhaps, maybe. Whatever the case, you should take something from me that enriches you. I'm not here for your entertainment. And I hate hearing my own voice. This is for you. So make sure you follow up. When desperate veterans turned to the United States Department of Veterans Affairs for help, many were denied basic disability claims. White devil counterparts got their same same kinds of needs fulfilled. But when Africans went to get their benefits, the counselors didn't have time for them. John Marsharkey, a veteran, says, quote, "It got to the point where they just said, whatever I'm suffering with, I'm going to continue to do that instead of going to an institution that's supposed to be servicing me, but instead disrespects me." You see? Over the years, studies have found that the VA unlawfully turned away thousands of vulnerable veterans, black people, while many have alleged that they discriminated against veterans of color. To fill the void, Mashariki co-founded the African Veterans for Social Justice in 1979, which aimed to provide emotional, medical, and employment-based support. Quote, "We had to come together to empower ourselves," he says. You see? Which is exactly what we need to do now, everybody. We need to self-segregate in this bitch. And we need to take over from the inside. Anywhere that you work right now, you need to be there on behalf of our people. You get a job at a damn 7-Eleven. You're supposed to find ways that you can get other black people up in there until it's all black. That's what everybody else does. So this isn't some novel idea. We need to ask ourselves, why aren't we doing the shit? Listen, every time you turn around, it's one white fucker up on Capitol Hill. Well, we have to wait for Mitch McConnell, or it's Joe Manchin that's holding up everything. It's so-and-so. We never hear of one black person holding up anything. I haven't heard it. Congressman black person is holding out. Haven't heard it. Have not heard it, and you haven't either. More than 2 weeks after the murder and killing of George Floyd, demonstrators and protesters continue to rally on the streets. These uprisings have shed light on widespread discrimination. You see, have shed light. No. You should take it as let you know that what the Jedi and anybody else who thinks like me has been telling your black ass, or you've heard, is all they white ass. This is not, oh, we didn't know. Ooh. Like you see one roach in your house and you don't think you have roaches? You think just one roach? These uprisings have shed light on widespread discrimination. No, have shed light on pure white evil. And that it's all of them. And that inequality and the inequality for African people in this bitch. And the military is no exception. That's how it should read. This week, the Senate appointed the very first African military chief, which will mean nothing. You see? You're the military chief. You're supposed to immediately dispense shit for African veterans and shit. You're supposed to go gangster, dude. Because if you're not, then we don't need you there. And this first, I told you, you don't have any firsts, everybody. This first black anything. You don't have any firsts. Because when there's a first, they will sound like me and they will do the shit that I prescribe. Anytime you have anybody in there just doing what any fucking white person would do, then they're not the first. It's a very simple concept. We're still waiting on the first of anything. We're waiting. So stop lying to your kids every February when they hear the first African American to do this, the first one to know. We ain't did the first shit. Not a damn. Charles Brown Jr., I'm over it, was unanimously confirmed on 9 June as the chief of staff for the United States Air Force. Just a week before his confirmation, Brown posted a video in which he spoke about the killing of Floyd. The protest and his own experience with racial inequality was his own experience of true white incarnation as a member of the military, or we should say, or his own finding out of the true nature of white people. It should read something like that. Brown says he was often the only African in his squadron, and as a senior officer, and usually the only African in the room. I'm thinking about wearing the same flight suit with the same wings on my chest as my peers, and then being questioned by another military member, quote, "Are you a pilot?" End quote, he said in the video. You see? He added that he rarely had a mentor that looked like him, and that he had to work twice as hard to overcome expectations. Though the demographics of active duty members in the military are diverse, there are only 2 senior officers who are African, including himself, Brown Jr. You see? Since the protests, the military has started to reckon with the way in which it has propped up racist structures. Now it wants to do it after the killing of George Floyd? Now? Who believes it? It was only this week, as this is being written, for instance, that both the Navy and the Marine banned the Confederate flag, just now banning it. And the Pentagon is considering renaming Army bases bearing the names of fucking white devils. Though President Orange Puff says he opposes the suggestion because he's the fucking vanguard of white evil. Times haven't changed that much, this Marshaki person says. Well, you should know that already. Any African person is not aware of that should just go away and die. You should be aware of your environment. You should be aware of what's going on. You should know where you fit in it. You should know this shit ain't changed. Marshaki hopes that the continuing protests, as well as this movie, will make people more aware of the plight suffered by men who are too often thought of as stoic, emotionless warriors. There was a lot of anger and disenchantment which had taken place. People were dealing with drug addiction, PTSD. The military spraying Agent Orange on our troops. He said, we needed support. We needed love. Listen. What was that? Something provoked another thought. Listen, I've told you, we have even not just these veterans from this Vietnam aggression, but you must understand that we have current, as I'm speaking, we have specialists, special ops, and people of various ranks that have served in this white devil's military, everybody. And so we have all the skill set that we need, from business to military to industry to finance to domestic to engineering to anything you're going to name. And it's high time we recognize that and have our own shit. That's what you got to do. Whatever you do for a living right now, if you're not 100% surrounded by your people, you are doing something wrong. Maybe you work for Amazon. You're just a packer or something. What are you doing to make sure that that becomes a gain for us as a people and not just your own black ass? What are you doing? What are you doing? Maybe you're a bill collector or some shit. You don't call black people. You understand? Somehow those numbers get lost and you don't know where they went. White people do this shit all the time. They're doing it as I speak. So don't you gasp and swoon at me saying the shit. I'm trying to tell you, you got to fight fire with fire, everybody. And you got to do unto others as they do unto you. That's how you get anywhere in this bitch. Otherwise, you're going nowhere, homie. Nowhere. Nowhere. I'm over it. I'm over it. I want to say to those of you who follow me on my other YouTube channel, Jedi Africa, those of you who are subscribed over there, that new video, that new update is up. It's exciting, and you should see that. So do go over to Jedi Africa and see that. Any of you who have not or weren't aware of the Jedi Africa channel, this is only for the serious. Not those who went past my many videos asking for your donation and you acted as if I didn't say the shit. Not you. This I set up for those who have been serious from the moment one, and who are responsible for me getting as far as I've gotten. So that is up over there. God willing, what's today? I think today is Wednesday. It could be Wednesday. I'm hoping to be live over the weekend, everybody, because I have a lot that I want to talk about. In fact, just to give you a little bit of a preview, hopefully this won't run out on me. But I want to talk about, I want to bring you some new information on this whole UFO situation and what you need to be understanding about this. It's very important. And I also want to, I don't want to preview it because there are still people who come to my channel and try and take my knowledge and steal it for themselves and go to their pathetic channels, and they're here for money and clicks and shit. You understand? Instead of trying to literally serve the people, they're the ones that you'll see with all their, every 5 minutes the subscribe button is coming up on the fucking screen, and they've got a PayPal and a Patreon and some more shit, and they've got 16 microphones sitting in their face. They're trying to be a fucking radio show and all the bullshit. That's all fine, but get your own, study your own. You understand? You don't need to bite off my shit. If you're not creative on your own, then maybe you should just go away and die. I do also want to say that I've also been leaving my Cash App up on my videos, everybody. And so I would like to try to, I would like to try to recoup some of my stateside costs that I've expended. My Cash App is the Jedi 1814, and so you hopefully will be encouraged to go to that and give what you can, everybody. I would like to raise an additional either anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. And I was going to try and show you this other thing, but I can't. Anyways, so it's the $sign and then the Jedi 1814. There's no capitals, no spaces. Do go and give what you can. And let us not take 5 years to do this, everybody. Just give what you can. We should be able to knock, that type of number out in no time. If 1,000 people see this video, then we should have done it. Today is Wednesday. I should be reporting to you on Saturday. Thank you guys. We raised it, and I thank you so much. And as always, it's more than about my need. It's the bigger picture. It's about us just being able to come together around a common purpose and to cooperate with one another, everybody. That's what it's about. And as I've said to you, while I make this journey by myself, I don't make it for myself. And I'm leaving a pathway behind me. That's what the Jedi Africa channel is all about. So that you have a blueprint that you can follow. So you can get the hell up out this bitch. Do you understand? Anyways, I'll talk more about that. Like I say, hopefully we'll get a chance to be live over the weekend. Do go and donate what you can, everybody. I love you all. I'll see you soon.